biggest message for everybody is go hug your people.
Absolutely.
Hello, hustlers, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, everybody out there trying to turn an idea into income. I want to welcome you to Serious Business, because it's serious, but it's not all that serious. Welcome to your weekly spot to get everything you need to know about making your business more profitable, but also having a lot more fun while doing it, because if this ain't fun, you shouldn't be doing it. Hey there, everybody. It's Suzanne Evans, and I would say I'm flying solo today because I usually have my partner in crime, Melanie Orr, but I traded her in for a newer model, a better model. So I have got an amazing guest with me today. And as you guys know, I don't really have guests on the show. And I asked him a few weeks ago if he would do this because I think it is such an under-discussed topic. And when it is discussed, it's kind of brought up as you can do it. And these are the 3 things you should do to get through it. And I think that's a lot of BS. And so we're going to talk about what happens when life throws you a curveball. And I'm not talking about the kind of curveball where you're like, I have to move. You know, I'm talking about, you'll hear this story in a moment, a major curveball where honestly, as I've witnessed this individual go through this experience, I've thought, well, I'd just shut my business down. I just would probably have to. And I guess this individual knowing me knows I probably wouldn't do that. But through this process, I've gone, sell the house, shut the business down, and just this is the only thing you focus on. So I'm actually been fascinated in watching his journey and his experience of how he has navigated the waters of this. And he is a wonderful and dear friend. He is sometimes a team member of ours. He does some subcontractor work for us at times, and a phenomenal colleague. And I want to welcome to the show today, Kevin Hoover. I like that. Kevin Hoover. How are you today?
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much for having me on. This is such a privilege. Such a privilege.
Well, listen, it is such an honor and a privilege to have you on. And I'll tell you that I asked him how he was today, because I'm going to have him tell his story here in just a second. But I think Sheryl Sandberg wrote an amazing book, if you haven't read it, called Plan B. And after the very, very sudden and unexpected death of her husband, she had this moment where it's such a well-told story, and I will butcher it here, but stay with me, where it was the parent-teacher night for her kids. She had 2 young kids, and her husband had unexpectedly died, and it was like daddy night or something at school. And a friend of hers had come over because he had agreed to go with the kids to the school, and she was sobbing, and she said, I don't want you to go. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this situation, and I so love and appreciate that you're here to help, but this is too much and this is too hard, and I'm just angry that you even have to do this. And he said, you're going to have to get used to Plan B. He said, you didn't expect there would be a Plan B, and you're going to have to get used to it. And he goes, and it's why every day I've called you and I haven't said, how are you doing? I've said, how are you doing today? And so I asked Kevin how he's doing today, because Kevin's been going through an extraordinary experience in his life and his family with his son. And his back's 4 or 5.
He's 4. He's about to be 5.
That's what I thought. He and Adrian are about a year and a half apart. So he has a gorgeous, beautiful, smart, funny,
rascally,
loving. I was going to say, I was going to say superhero loving, because he's a lot like Adrian that way. Superhero loving son who is 4 years old, and about 9 months ago now.
Yeah, it was April 1st. Yep.
April 1st was diagnosed with cancer. And so I'm going to let you, the story I think will give context, but you and I know it's not the most important piece of this, but I'm going to ask you just to give the short version so people aren't going how and why and when and what and all of that. And then we're going to get into the deep waters of, being told your son has cancer is one thing, what you do after that is another.
100%. And I think the context is really the week leading up and the week right after. of diagnosis, because the Saturday before we were went to the hospital, we were playing soccer and eating ice cream. Exactly 1 week later, we're in intensive care with a tumor and kidney failure. So it wasn't like this long ramp up period of something could be wrong. This is the situation where when things are dropped on you out of thin air, what do you do? So Backsleaze went into kidney failure. We was airlifted to a hospital about 2 hours away in Charleston, South Carolina. They had already detected the tumor, but that was where we really got into the oncology halls, and they really started talking, cancer. And that was where we heard cancer for the first time. You can imagine as a parent, and there's a funny story. My wife, bless her heart, my wife is incredibly intelligent, and this was the emotional state that we were in. The doctors came in, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to bring in the oncologist." And my wife was like, "Okay, who's that? What's that?"
Oh no. Haven't heard that part of the story.
Yeah, she was just in this moment of not putting it together yet, in a state of shock kind of thing. And so that was kind of where we went. And then about 8 days later, we were officially diagnosed. They set us at the table in the boardroom with the doctors and the head of the Department of Oncology, of Pediatric Oncology. And that's where they dropped the word cancer on us. And my son has rhabdomyosarcoma, which is it's not rare, but they see about 6 or 7 cases a year at this particular hospital for children. So it's not something that everybody has. And so it was really that kind of, this is a mistake. This isn't us. This is not what we do. And then we had to adjust everything in our life, from what we eat to when we wake up to who's at home and who's not.
Well, there was a period. So wait, I'm gonna ask you that in a second. Now let's back up. Tell them what you do, right? So give them some context to pre-C. Right?
PC, I like it. That's the book name.
PC. There you go. PC. Pre-C. What were you doing? What was your business? What was your life? What did that look like from an entrepreneurial standpoint?
Yeah. So I had 2 businesses. I had a real estate business where I was selling about between $5 and $6 million a year in real estate. And then I had a coaching business where I was about to break into multiple 6 figures with my coaching. My coaching was really my focus. My real estate I built that brand to where it was pretty much, I didn't market it. I didn't really talk about it. People just came to me naturally. And over the course of a year, I would sell about $5 million in real estate just by building that brand to a certain level. So those were my 2 businesses. And I would work about maybe a day in real estate and then 4 days in coaching.
Right.
Had a full client roster. So I was at capacity and about to launch a group. I was looking at launching a membership program as well this year. I was about halfway through a book. So I was really going on all cylinders, like, let's go, let's do this. I'm excited.
Momentum.
Yeah, I could see it. I could taste it. We were starting to talk about 2 commas with the people who were mentoring me and coaching me. And we were starting to kind of figure out what that looks like and how we scale that and leverage that. And it was just super exciting. And then, this happened. And of course, you, as a parent and entrepreneur, the kid comes before everything else, of course.
It's interesting. I'll say, Kevin, that I've had for many years, I was in business for 7 years without a child before I had a kid. And, you have a kid, and I see so many people who go, my kid is my reason, and I grow the business. And I get that. Certainly for the most part, I think, what can I provide for him and what can I do for him? But there's also a side of me, because I had success before the kid, that I go, and if somebody would just write me a check, I'd hang out with him. Now, I'd probably be bored or crazy within a few weeks, but you're right. Everything, the kid comes first. So you have this momentum going, and the business, you kind of, in many ways, Kevin, because I've known you for a long time and known things you were doing before you were doing this, and that's another story and another topic for a podcast. But you kind of had finally gotten it.
Yeah, I think for the first time in probably my career. I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I felt like people were responding. I was getting results in people, and I was happy. I was like, this is it. I'm at every soccer game on Saturday. I can afford to buy the Kona ice when the truck pulls up and all the kids are being told no, and it was really becoming this, I love this life kind of idea for me, that I was living what I thought I should be living.
So that was PC. So now let's move to AC.
AC,
right?
Everything came crashing down. And I think as a dad, as an entrepreneur, I put my wife and son on a helicopter, and my son was in kidney failure. They had said the word tumor. We didn't know cancer. We were just brand new, like within a couple hours. So I had to make the 2-hour drive because not everybody can get on the helicopter. And I mean, it was, down to my wife couldn't take her purse because of the weight.
Yeah.
So not that she has a big purse, but she does. But so really, that was really the first moment when it hit, and I physically collapsed in my house, just from the overwhelm of it. And there weren't any questions around what do I do, really. So we get to the hospital, and we were in the hospital ultimately about a month. That first stint, we were there for about a month. And so we get to the hospital the first time. We're spending the night, and it was really after we got diagnosed. I was like, okay, this is real. I need to figure this out. So I go to my best friend Amazon, and I say, what do I think I need to run this business out of the hospital?
Yeah.
They've got Wi-Fi. All right, I need a laptop that's faster than the one I've got. So bought a laptop. I need a backpack. Got a backpack. I need, couple notebooks. I need, all the things you might need.
Right.
So basically, I put my whole office into a backpack. And that was when it started to get real for me. And then I think, just saying, okay, well, I can't work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Because I've used to, I come from a world, we grew up in similar areas where my grandfather owned a gas station, and my dad started working there when he was 12. And I got my first job at 13, and we were working people. What do you mean you're not working full time? And what is that? How does that feel? How do you get over that, idea that's ingrained in you since birth? And so I started looking at it, and I said, okay, well, I've got clients scattered out throughout the week. And so let me get my mind right. Should I just fold it? So really, I looked at the real estate business. I was like, okay, well, it's unreasonable for me to serve those people in any kind of capacity, doing what I do. So I need to fold that business and figure out what that looks like. So I wasn't happy with that because that was good money. It was easy money.
Yeah. It's a lot of Kona ices.
It's a lot of Kona ices. Yeah. So what I ultimately decided with that was how do I manage that and not let it go away? I was fortunate enough to have built relationships deep enough where I could refer all my business out.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, there's a solution.
Did you get some kickback on that?
Oh yeah, I get 25%.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is nice. So what you basically did, and I want to kind of highlight, it's interesting. You probably shouldn't have been doing the real estate. Wouldn't you agree?
But it's completely folded now. I don't do any real estate at all.
You probably, just knowing what your history has been in growing your business, you probably shouldn't have been doing it. It took like a family crisis to stop doing it. You're still making money from it without you actually doing any work, right? Because you can do the referral piece. And it's interesting. I remember when my mom had a stroke 6 years ago, and it was like overnight, she had a massive stroke. And I was like, I was supposed to do a tour to fill, at the time, was Be the Change. I'm sure it's probably one of the ones you were working on in your former position. But I was supposed to do national tour stops to fill the event. I had only ever filled events by doing tour stops. And so when Melanie and I sat down and we said, what has to give? Because I was sleeping in a chair in the hospital, which you totally get, and I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to be. Is this going to be 2 weeks, or is it going to be 6 months, or whatever? We said, what has to go? Just like you did. We said, we got to kill the tour stops, and it probably means we'll have a tiny event. It was the year our event went from 350 people to 625 because it forced us to innovate.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's funny how that happened. That same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
How do you grow your business? Get cancer, basically.
Yeah. It's like the universe abhors a vacuum. So if you open up the space for something, right, it will put the right next thing in it.
100%.
So that's the model piece for you. It's like your model almost got better because of this.
Oh, completely. I moved everybody to 2 days a week. I got the real estate on referral. So at the beginning, I was working only Tuesdays and Wednesdays. My wife and I had it worked out where her company was working with her, and my clients I was just transparent. It was like, if you need to go somewhere else, I understand, but I'm available Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yep.
100% of them stayed with me. And so I worked from 9 to 4 on Tuesday and Wednesday from the hospital. I missed 1 week of coaching.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And I told him, I said, hey, I'm working on free hospital Wi-Fi. So we're going to go to phone calls instead of Zoom. Like
Yep.
And because I can't rely on the space I'll be in. I may need to be outside. I may need to, and so it really was this, everything in life became, how do I do only what's essential?
Okay, that's a writer downer for everybody, because I think you don't need to get cancer or your family member get cancer to ask yourself that. And this reminds me, this is so awesome, Kevin. A couple of years ago when we moved to the Chapel Hill area, we took a class called Simplicity Parenting, which is based on the book Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne. And it changed my business because we took the principles in the Simplicity Parenting, which means what is not essential to this relationship, to this home, to this, right, and simplify everything. And I actually used those principles about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, to the business, which is why we're here, which is why our team is a little leaner, which is why I don't offer some of the programs we do, which is actually why my gross income went down, but my profit went up a bit. And it's this idea of, what are we doing because we think we need to do it? Or what are we doing because we're afraid if we don't do it this way, our clients won't stay? Or what are we doing that we think that maybe it's the only way we've done it, so we keep doing it? But when you ask that question, which is such a brilliant question, what is not essential here? What an opportunity that is.
Oh, it was a game changer. It was a game changer, and I think then I didn't know it would work. I was like, well, I don't have a choice. And that was my story. I think I talk now and tell people now and coach people now. And if you have a choice, let me tell you that it's possible if you just look at these things. But I had to do it out of necessity. I was like, I can only work Tuesdays and Wednesdays, maybe. The rest of the time I'm in the hospital with my son, and my wife is working, and I'm just not available, period. That's it. We need the income, so I got to keep my business going. I want to serve my clients. I don't want to get rid of that. So it really became over the course of probably 3 or 4 weeks of just white knuckling this thing and going, I've got to figure this out fast.
Something I want to bring up for everybody too. I so often, Kevin, see people come to me and maybe they're having a similar experience to you. It's a family health crisis, or it's their own health crisis, or divorce, unexpected divorce, fill in the blank, whatever happens to someone. And they go, Suzanne, I've just got to put the business on hold right now. This is going on. And to quote one of my favorite philosophers, Loretta Lynn, I'm kind of serious about that. From Coal Miner's Daughter, there's this moment where her husband, Boo, says, you know what, baby, just come off the road. And she looked at him and she goes, that's not what I signed up for. She said, I come off the road and they're all going to forget.
Yep.
And your son was diagnosed and you needed a week to regroup. Your son was diagnosed and you knew this was going to be long-term because it was 62 weeks, right? 67 weeks of treatment. So this wasn't like, hopefully we'll get this back on track August 1st, right? You knew this was long-term. So you changed everything, you remodeled everything, but you never once went, well, I'm just going to have to put this to the side.
No, I couldn't. And I didn't want to. I knew for my own mental health and my own mindset, and there has to be an element of normalcy. There has to be an element of, cancer was beating me up enough as it is. And failing in a business or quitting a business like that would have made me worry as a man, as a dad, as all the ego stuff that we put into the norm. But also, I looked at my son when he was born and I was like, I promised I'd take care of him. And he's sitting here fighting for his life. Why can't I fight 2 days a week for my business that's going to provide for him? And he's getting needles poked into him right and left, to the point where someone new walks in the room and he goes, he doesn't want to meet you. So I started really comparing me to him, and I looked at what he was doing and I was like, well, if I can't do that, what kind of model am I for his story when he looks back on this once he's an adult, when he's beat this thing? How is he going to look back at dad as a businessman? What lesson do I have to teach him? What lesson do I teach my clients? What lesson do I teach my model for my wife and myself and everybody in my life? And I just really decided that I'm going to have to just grab on this thing and fight like hell. And if there's a point where the business becomes detrimental to my health, that's when we have some decisions to make.
And you make one decision at a time. I mean, I think
Exactly.
that's the only way you could do it. All right, I want to take
there for a long time.
Yeah, I want to take a little bit of a left turn here. That's kind of like the buck up version of this. And I really do believe that you have to have a piece of that in whatever's going on, through divorce, through illness, through change, you've got to go, listen, I got a family to feed. I got medical bills. The option is not to shut the business down. The option is to rethink the business and do that. And you did all of that. That being said, I am so glad that I have not experienced what you've experienced. That is the absolute honest reaction.
And I'm glad you haven't either.
Yeah, I am. I've had my own problems in life. Exactly. They have not been this. But I think about some of the biggest problems I've had, challenges I've had, and how distracted I got, and how upset I was about stuff, and how I'm just like trying to, screw my head on straight to show up for the calls or to do that. I can't imagine watching my son have treatments, be sick. Last weekend I was texting you because I was like, what the hell's going on? Because I know you guys ended up in the ER, by ambulance. Because although we'll share an update on where Bax is so you guys know, although he's doing quite well, this is still shitty and it's still really hard treatments and all of that. How do you deal with the emotion? How do you deal with, I think what we talked about was the business model and the physical side of this. How do you deal with the emotional side of it?
That was tough. And it still is, and I'll probably get emotional talking about it. And I stopped apologizing for that. Just, I had to. And so I think the first thing that I really did, I think the first time I went live on Facebook to tell people, because we were just getting so many people reaching out, and I was like, we just need we got to tell people, and I don't know what this looks like, and this is scary. And I got on and started crying and just bawling. And I've never really been that kind of person in public. I was that kind of person in private, really in tune with my emotions, but not really in the public. I think the biggest thing I experienced was not to apologize for how I feel, and not to try to hide how I feel, and not to shy away from it. And if I feel it, talk about it. And obviously the serious stuff my wife and I would sit down and talk about together. But then I started looking around and I was like, well, I don't want to suppress. That's what I don't want to do, because I know where that road leads. So when we talk about deep emotions, we're talking about nights where I went to the bathroom, sat on the floor with a towel and cried.
Yeah.
At 2 a.m.
Yep.
From a cold sleep to going in the bathroom and sitting on the tile floor and crying. So it was that kind of stuff. Or you'd be at something stupid like Burger King, and you see a kid or something, and all of a sudden you have to leave because you don't want to be the sad guy next to the playground at Burger King.
Although that's delightful knowing you, Kevin. That's something you may just want to do for fun later.
Yeah. But so I think really dealing with the emotions became just allowing the emotions.
Yeah.
It came not in trying to be the tough person or the gritty person or the I've got all my shit together person, and really came to, hey, you know what? I'm a smart guy. I'm a great business leader. I'm also human. And the most important thing in my life is on a helicopter in a hospital or not feeling good or doing whatever he has to do to stay with us. And so that should be sad for me on some level. That should make me pissed off on some level. That should make me resentful on some level. It should be a stressor in my marriage on some level. Now, what I can't do is let all those things win. I can't let all those things consume me and overcome and take me out of the world altogether, so you have to allow that, but put them in place. One of the best things I did, and I hope this is where you want to go with this.
Yes, perfect.
I think one of the best things I did to say, okay, now I'm allowing these emotions. Now I'm handling that. How do I kind of harness this and use it for good?
Yeah.
How do I take all these things that I need to let go? And one of the best things I did not decide intentionally to do, but that helped me the most, I took all that energy, I focused it on someone else. And I started giving to other people. Yeah. How can I help you? Here's $5. Here's a wagon. We do the wagons.
Yeah, share with them really quick the wagons, what that is and what you did.
Well, that was really the big thing. So first, early on in the hospital, if you know me, you probably have an idea of what my kids would be like. So early
Crazy,
on in the hospital,
wild, wacky, outside the box.
yeah. So early on, my son was going down for his first set of scans. He didn't want to be in the hospital. It's hooked up to IVs, and he just was like, "What's going on here? This is crazy. We're not at home." And I said, "Bax, we got to go downstairs and get some really specific pictures taken of us, our insides." And he was like, "Okay, I want to go naked in a wagon." so,
And you know what? I hope that's the picture in his high school. You know, when you do that, he goes, with his little quote, "I want to go naked and in a wagon."
In a wagon, yep. My wife has a great picture of me pulling him down the hall for the first time in a wagon. And all the doctors thought it. They were like, "What? He's not in a wheelchair." And so that really started this whole thing of that was his safe place, the wagon.
Yeah.
So we kind of latched onto that. Didn't happen instantaneously. It was probably over the next 2-3 weeks maybe. But we started buying wagons and giving them to other families because we found it useful getting from the car to the hospital, getting all the stuff. And so Backsleaze wagons became that. And now we've given 22 wagons to families. We put a pillow, a blanket, a toy in there. Backsleaze gives the wagons to the kids if we're delivering in person. He loves it. He's like, it's just an amazing thing. But taking that emotional energy that would be pent up and putting it in something like Backsleaze wagons and helping other families going through something like we're going through and letting them know you're not alone. Like, because we are, by and large, you look around the hospitals, we are the fortunate ones.
Yeah.
We are. There are people out there who lose their job. They get divorced. Their kids don't make it. Their kids are on a years and years cycle of fighting, and ultimately they know they're going to lose. And it really, you look around and you're like, wow, we've been put in this situation not for nothing. And taking that emotional energy and projecting it into someone else to give someone else a little bit of strength, a little bit of hope, a little bit of I got your back. That was the biggest thing that really, it's still to this day, anytime I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I get on social media or the phone and I'm like, who needs a wagon?
Yeah.
Who needs a wagon? That's what we do.
I wrote this to you, I think, in a Facebook post early on, but I don't say this or share this and pretend to understand at all what you're going through. But I couldn't help but think in the very beginning that God chooses so wisely, and he chose you, and what you have been as a model for people to get over themselves, quite frankly, people to get on with themselves, and for people to see what you can do with sorrow and what you can do with anger and what you can do with confusion and what you can do with not knowing what to do.
100%.
And it's been it's just been incredible to watch. And I all the time, I have clients who'll be like, well, I don't know, this was just so hard. And I'm like, let me tell you a story. And I mean that sincerely. And so my intention for this call today was for people to know that bad things are going to happen to everybody.
Yeah.
They are. Especially, it seems that they happen more to entrepreneurs. I think because we're more dramatic.
A little curse.
Yeah, right. Mainly because we don't have jobs and it is all on all of that. But it does. It's going to happen. And so many businesses are family businesses, and some family member is going to have a problem at some point. And the fact that you've turned this into a movement of hug your people.
Yeah.
Right, which is an absolute movement that you and your family created.
Yeah. And funny story, around that, like my son was in physical therapy today, and there was a little girl who we had given a wagon to. And so Miss Tracy, she helps us out. She's Backsleaze teacher. She took him and she said, yeah, Ashley was there. She said, is that Backsleaze from Backsleaze Wagons?
Oh, he's famous. He's famous.
So I think really looking at legacy and looking at if he chooses to make that a part of his give back and his telling his story, that's important. That's amazing. It's awesome.
It is. It is completely amazing. So we want to hear the update on Bax.
Yeah. Oh man. So I'll give you the short version of a long story. We had our scans done, our halfway scans. We're about 36 weeks through our 67 weeks in treatment. We had our halfway scans done. The scans came back and said showed the tumor had shrunken from 7 centimeters down to 1.8. And it was amazing. And it was showing up completely dead. So all the scans that you can do without invasive surgery showed no cancer cells live in the lungs and where the tumor is or any tissue. So that was great. It didn't change our protocol or our treatment, but it just gave us it put a ton of wind in our sails as far as how we get through the next 6 months, 7 months. And his hair's growing back, and the last 6 weeks have really been him doing the opposite of what the doctors have said should happen. He's going to get sick. His blood count's going down, and it doesn't. His hair's going to fall out, and it doesn't. And so it just has been remarkable.
I did all that. I did that. I'm really done with it. I did it.
Yeah,
I experienced it. I can write a college essay about it. I'm moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So he is doing.
I'm tired of having cancer. We're going to get it out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So he is doing as amazing as you can be, and that doesn't mean that the treatments stop. And he's still got that challenge and that struggle to get through. But it's working. That's what we say. How can someone donate to Backsleaze Wagons?
We are approved for nonprofit status with the state of South Carolina. We have filed for IRS nonprofit status because we want to help as many people as we can. Right now, just connect with me on Facebook, get in the Hug Your People. And once we get that, we'll be
Tell us how to do all that. Where do we find you everywhere?
Yeah, Kevin Hoover on Facebook, on Instagram, Hug Your People on Instagram, Kevin Hoover on LinkedIn, Twitter. I tried TikTok for a little while. Didn't work out so good for me.
Oh, you know what? It's just, I think that your family's very busy right now. I think if you put some time into TikTok, Kevin, this would be your platform. I'm telling you. I'm making this up because I've not done it myself, but I do see you doing a lot of music videos.
Yeah, I've tried that. My clients are begging me to lip sync something.
Please. Do it for like when you get your federal status. Do it for a fundraiser for Backsleaze Wagons, which would be awesome. Okay, so as we wrap this up, because this could be a 3-hour podcast, because honestly, and I would probably love to have you back at some point even further down the journey, because I do think that somebody's cancer is somebody's divorce, is somebody's job loss, is somebody, right? I mean, and people can take that and go, how do I keep going? And how do I keep growing? And how do I use this for good? But will you just share for the person listening to this and something has punched them in the gut? What do they need to do right now?
The biggest thing you need to do right now is believe. And whatever you believe is what will happen. And if you believe you can run a 6-figure business working a day and a half a week, then you will. If you believe you can't, then you won't. And once you believe it, you'll commit to it. And once you commit to it, you'll get the results you want. And that's so true in anything you do. If I believed that my son would beat cancer, didn't know how, didn't care how. I believed that I would keep my business. I believed my wife would keep her job, and we would keep our marriage together, and we would keep everything. I started there because believe me, there were those dark moments where I didn't believe that, and I had to make the choice. But if you really look at what do you do now when life is punching you in the gut or something's coming at you that's really severe and really serious, is you really get back to your belief, because your belief will shape your commitment. And when you commit, as well as anybody else, when you're all in on something, the results come. And if your belief is not behind that commitment, your commitment's not strong. So whatever it is you're thinking is what's going to show up. And I think that was important. The day that I decided my business would not suffer, I would not drop below 6 figures, I would not lose a client, in fact, I was going to grow my business working 2 days a week.
Wow.
I was going to beat cancer, grow my business, keep my marriage, keep my house, buy a new car. I was going to do all that while I did this. So it became a this and that, not a this or that.
Take that, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I can beat cancer and grow my business.
Yeah.
I believe that, and so I would say I understand what it takes to get to that point, but start making small decisions to build up to that big decision.
I love that. I love you. I love your family.
We love you. Backsleaze I said, I'm going to see Adrian's mom. And he was like, that's super exciting.
I know. I show him your Instagram feed, Adrian, a lot and remind him who Bax is. And, of course, his favorite ones are always when like Bax is in a superhero costume or helmet or something. So anyway, it's been such a, I wanted, like I said, I don't really have guests on the podcast, but I can't talk about this. I've had some bad things that have happened. I've had family members who got sick and I feel blessed that I haven't, had a super punch in the gut, but a lot of people have in a lot of different areas. And I think that we don't talk enough about how you keep going. We talk about you should keep going, but we don't talk about how you keep going, and we don't talk about that it doesn't have to be pretty. Right. And I think you did a post or something, and we'll kind of wrap up on this, but I may be saying the wrong title, but you did a podcast episode or something that says sometimes I cry alone or something like that. Yeah. And I thought, God, what a beautiful lesson. You don't have to listen to the podcast. Mm-hmm. You could just read the title. Yeah. And sometimes he cries alone and he's still growing and running a 6-figure business. And you can be sad and successful. You can be struggling and be growing. And you can go through hard times and at the same time experience good times.
Absolutely. 100%.
I love you, Kevin Hoover.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
The biggest message for everybody is go hug your people.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Serious Business. Thank you for being here. Thank you for welcoming Kevin in. Make sure you go follow him on Instagram and Facebook and find Hug Your People. And when he gets everything together, donate to Backsleaze Wagons. It's an amazing opportunity to help a family and support a child. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast, Serious Business. Please follow us on Instagram at The Driven Inc. and make sure to check us out on Facebook at Driven Inc. as well. Subscribe to this podcast. You don't want to miss a single episode, and tell a friend, because good friends share good stuff. See you next week.